Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.
Razzavan for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. Happy Sunday with me. I've got my man Sam Jones. Sam, thank you for jumping on so early. I know you were up very late just like me last night. How are you? Getting that brewing.
Yeah, always, mate. Yeah, good, mate. Enjoyed the boxing last night, the girls' card. It was brilliant. Thought the fights were really good. I enjoyed the Doherty-Cullen fight. It was all good, wasn't it? I went to bed and I missed the controversy. I missed the actual fight when it was in play with the phantom headbutt. And then I watched it and I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I just saw Bob Arum going absolutely mental. And yeah, I stayed up for the Crawford Brook'S fight. Yeah, it was good, mate. Enjoyed it.
Always good when you've got boxing on. Let's jump straight into it. Kell Brook, a lot of people I spoke to were saying this is a tough fight for Kell. People were even saying this is a cash-out fight. He's not working with Dom. He's not working with Eddie on this fight. He looked in unbelievable shape. Spoke to Greg Marriott, and Greg said he's done the weight amazing this time round. We saw that in the pictures. But was this the inevitable that we saw last night?
To be honest, I said I think Kell will do a lot better than what people think, but Terence Crawford's going to win because he's just ultimately a better fighter. Kell's been a great fighter, he really has. But with Terence Crawford, he's been my pound for pound one for a while. Probably my favourite fighter as well. And he's an ice cold finisher, and he showed it yesterday. Kell was beating him to the jab, to be fair, and then Terence went southpaw, which kind of changed it a little bit, and then it was like a jab. I think that scrambled Kell's brains. I think maybe Kell's punch resistance is not there as what it once was, but Terence Crawford's a spiteful puncher, and there's no shame in losing to him. Nobody can say Kell went there and didn't have a go because he looked fantastic. He made the weight, which I'm sure is horrible for him, for someone as big as Kell to make the weight. So you've got to take your hat off to Kell Brook and say well done. But Terence Crawford's a pound for pound number one in my opinion.
Did you give Kell a chance going into the fight?
No, I didn't. I didn't give him a chance. That's just me being really honest. I mean, as I say, I think Terence Crawford would have, not as how he did last night, but I think a prime Kell Brook doesn't beat Terence Crawford. In my honest opinion, not many people in their primes beat Terence Crawford. I think he's that good. I really do.
Well, obviously, he went in there without Dominic, a new trainer, new setup. We know Dom's come out and explained why he didn't help or work with Kell on this fight. Didn't want to get stuck in the Canary Islands and being able to isolate when he's got so many fighters in the gym. Eddie's come out and said, look, they didn't approach me to support him on this fight. I told him to go make the deal, but I had nothing to do with the fight. Was he up against it when he made those decisions?
It's never going to be great when you've got a non-familiar face with you in the corner, like with Dom. Dom knows him inside out. This is before that. People there is. It's good to have him around you. Somebody that's been around Kell since he was a young kid. As I say, I just don't think it would have mattered either way. Just for this fight, like anybody else, maybe, but not for that. Not for Terence Crawford. I'm afraid he's the best finisher in boxing. When he senses you hurt, you're in trouble with Terence Crawford. If you watch his fights, he's he's notoriously quite a slow starter. But he figures you out, and he makes the adjustment, and he chops, and he ultimately stops you. But yesterday it was like a jab, wasn't it? It was really thudding jab, and it scrambled Kell's senses, and he got the stoppage. But I'm pleased Kell's gone out of there like he was on his feet. He wasn't like on his back, and I think, listen, man, who am I and anybody else say, oh, you need to retire? Because let's be honest. If Eddie Hearn or anybody announced the Amir Khan Kell Brook fight, was on pay-per-view in January. We're all buying it. We're all buying it, and we're all going to have a. Both of them are past their best, but we're all buying it, aren't we? Because it's still interesting. But unless it's that fight, I don't want to see. I want to see Kell like retire now. In my honest opinion.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. A lot of people said before the fight, this is Kell Brook cashing out. This is Kell Brook not wanting to pay Eddie Hearn his fees, not want to pay Dom his percentages. This is what people were saying. So do you feel like it was ultimately leading down that road where he looks at himself and says, look, where else do I go now? You know, who else do I fight?
Yeah, it's, I say Kell's had a great career. I think it's hard for somebody like a fat person like me to say, oh, Kell's underachieved in his career. But he, in my opinion, he has underachieved of what his, because I believe he should have gone on to fight Jarrett Hurd when he was the champion. I believe he should have moved up to 154 after the loss to Golovkin. And because people always say the Golovkin fight he shouldn't have taken. I said that at the beginning, but then you realise he got paid millions for that fight. And you had never had nothing to lose against Golovkin because Golovkin at that time was near on unbeatable. But the fight after that, I believe he shouldn't have boxed Spence. I think he should have moved on to 154 pounds, and I believe he would have gone on to be a two-weight world champion for sure. Like I really do believe that. But who am I to say this? It's just me giving you my opinion with my cup of tea in Derby this morning. But it's just my honest opinion. But Kell's had a great career. He's made millions, financially stable, health intact. You don't have anything left to prove. You've boxed everybody. No one can ever tell him to say he's ever shirked a challenge because he hasn't. He's taken on everyone, hasn't he?
And I know on Terence Crawford, everyone says he's definitely in that top 2-3 pound for pound list. Where does he kind of go? We know he wants those big fighters that are with Al Heyman and PBC. You know, is it a matter of him now leaving Bob? He's 33, 34 years old. Yeah, hasn't got a long time left.
It's not just about that. It's like Bob Arum has shown that you can make dual promotion fights like Wilder and Fury. That was a prime example. They just need to get it on. The one fight that I didn't want him to really call out, I know he wants it because it's huge on paper, but Pacquiao, he's 42 years old. I don't want to see Crawford against Pacquiao. For me, I want to see him fight Spence, Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter. One of those guys. That's who I wanted to see him fight. Or Florian Marco. I'm joking before everyone starts jumping on the comments. That's one for down the line. But no, on a serious note, I want to see him fight those four guys from PBC. I don't want him to see him fight a Manny Pacquiao. I'm not interested in that fight. I want Crawford to have his legacy fights now. I want him to have his I mean, Sean Porter, imagine that fight. That's going to be unbelievable because it's hard. Sean Porter's like, he's in your face, isn't he? Like, how will he deal with that kind of pitbull kind of pressure? Like, you want to see, because as I say, I've got Crawford as the best fighter in the world, in my opinion, but how would he deal with that particular style? I don't know, it's interesting, really interesting. So, no, I don't believe he has to leave Bob Arum. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, but I would like to. I don't want to see any. I don't want to see Crawford fight anybody else other than those four, as a boxing fan.
Okay, Sam. Just quickly, some other news. Seen today, Dave Allen has announced his retirement from the sport of boxing. Bit of a shock to everybody that it's come out today. No one's expected Dave to retire anytime soon. I know he was supposed to fight on the Usyk and Chisora undercard, and because of the Don himself, Don King, they couldn't come to an agreement. But what was your instant reaction to this?
My instant reaction is Papi Della Mayweather. He's up in his value. No. If that's that's the decision Dave's taken, then Dave's a success story in boxing, isn't he? Like he's headlined the O2. He's a huge character in boxing. The fans absolutely adore him, don't they? They love him. He's had some great great nights, hasn't he? If Dave thinks I honestly didn't think he would retire after the David Price fight. But then when he went and started training with Jamie Moore, you kind of think, has Jamie rejuvenated him? Which I was hearing he had. I was hearing he was doing well, but Dave just had it, as he said on his farewell message, he's just had enough of being punched in the head, and like, who can fault that? Like, he's apparently put some good money in the bank. He's got some houses. Boxing's a hard sport, isn't it, mate? It's a really, really hard sport. So fair play to him, and good luck to Dave Allen in his future.
We saw images of Dave during fight week. He looked in unbelievable shape. You know, probably the best he's ever looked. As you said, maybe Jamie Moore has rejuvenated him. So do you think this is just we know fighters go out and make decisions that they've retired, but you know, they do eventually come back as well?
Are you asking me if I'd be shocked whether I wouldn't be shocked whether Dave Allen still appeared on the card next week. But if Dave Allen has retired and he sticks to that, then mate, he's had a great career, hasn't he? He really has. He's a success story in boxing.
And just finally, I'll end on this. Fight was supposed to happen months ago. We're now less than 2 weeks away from Daniel Dubois, Joyce getting into the ring. We've seen Frank Warren made some comments Friday where he said if Anthony Joshua vacates, the winner of that fight could potentially be the mandatory, could fight Usyk for then the mandatory for Anthony Joshua. Is that how you're looking at it as Joe's manager as well, as potentially a massive opportunity if he comes through, Daniel?
Genuinely, do you want me to be honest with you? Nothing else matters other than, Frank and whether Daniel they're looking at, Joyce is looking at fighting Daniel Dubois. Seriously, now I'm being serious with this. I know it's the old cliche, you don't look past your opponent. Joyce is not thinking about anything else other than, although he has asked me about, he has said he's definitely going on holiday after the fight, but I think that's the only thing that he's looked past the fight with. But other opponents, no. Joyce is looking to do a job on Daniel Dubois. Just under 2 weeks now. That's what Joe's next in, and after that, we can get on a Zoom call again, and then we can talk about next moves and next opponents.
Hopefully, we can get you on a Zoom call. That is. Yeah,
you always, mate. I've let you down probably once.
All right, Sam. Thank you for jumping on early, my man. Appreciate it, and hopefully we'll catch up with you next 10 days or so.
Yes, mate.
Sam Jones, IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.